This part where it says it's preparing. It tricks me. We're now streaming live. Digital. I don't know if anyone watched the Bob, and I guess I should say good morning first. I'm going to pour the tea, and while I pour the tea, I'll share this story. This is called multitasking. We're doing non-linear time management here. Here's the tea being poured into the Q cup. I always liked that James Bond's super smart guy was named Q, inventing, his job is basically to make explosive gum, right? That was the main job he had. I mean, there was always the fancy car with the missiles. We get that, but every fancy car that a spy has missiles. It's the explosive gum that we're here for. And that was Q's main job, I think. I always liked that that guy, his name was Q, and well, there you go. Let's have a sip. Got peppermint tea today. Nothing fancy. Just taking it easy. Digital. If you haven't seen it, Bob Odenkirk and David Cross. This is going to be a story now. Bob Odenkirk and David Cross created a Netflix special. It's just 4 episodes called Bob and David, and I've known them forever. They kind of really founded in a lot of ways, or were some of the pioneers of the surreal comedy movement. And with their show, Mr. Show, it was called Mr. Show. Anyhow, they had this skit in Bob and David, the more recent one on Netflix, which is worth watching. I think that show's hilarious. And there's this guy called Shingy who called himself a digital pioneer or something like that. And you watch the skit and you're like, this guy's a moron, absolute moron. It's hilarious. And then I was delighted to discover that this is based on a real person called Shangy, I think, I think he worked for Yahoo and was their digital pioneer or whatever. And he has this ridiculous hair. I'm actually going to look him up while we're Shangy. Maybe if I just do Shangy, or is it Shingy? And then I can share it in the comments here. David Shing. Yeah, there he is. David Shing is an Australian futurist. And if I find the comments here, and I click just now, and I bring this up, come on, there, yeah, get me in there. Oh, don't pause, just mute that. There he is. There's the website for Shingy. He's crazy, and you'll watch him and be like, wow, this is the thing. You can do this, and this can be your career. Anyhow, in the Bob and David skit, he would just constantly, his buzzword was like, digital. It's digital, yeah? And that was the fill-in for literally anything. So if you had a question about, hey, how is this going to make a difference in the world? You just go, digital. It's digital. Look, picture of a rocket ship. I found it delightful. Anyhow, you're not here for these terrible Shingy impressions and what have you. You're here for the good shit, and that's what I'm here to bring you. What is the good shit today? I'll start by showing you this art piece that I really love. I got this on a trip to Vancouver. And this is what it looks like. As you can tell, that's a very muscular, headless person holding this ball. And what I love about this is, well, first of all, I just love, like, that's a bold piece of art. I like the boldness of it. The gold is appealing to me just aesthetically. But what I love is this is everyone. This right here is the experience. Thanks, Evan. That almost all of the people I'm in conversation with, and myself to some extent, we're in some flavor of this. This serves as a reminder for me, like, oh, right, that's what we're doing, which is that we've got something going on in life, some aspect of life that we're resisting, and we're just doing our damnedest to hold it at bay. And it doesn't work, or at least it works until it stops working for us. It works until holding it at bay gets to the point where we're like, this isn't getting me what I want. This is bankrupt. This is not where I want to go. This is not what I want to create. And so the trouble is that this guy doesn't realize that. He can't see any possibility outside of keeping this giant gold ball right here from crushing him. And so he must stay in this position. And the fascinating thing is that, what is the fascinating thing? I had it and it just slipped my mind. Let me have a sip of tea while I just think about the fascinating thing. The fascinating thing is that there's a possibility available for this guy right here. And the possibility available is on the other side of him keeping this ball at at bay, right? It's on the other side of him resisting the hell out of this. But every conversation that we begin with this guy right here is going to get pulled into, here's why I have to hold the ball. Here's why I have to keep the globe right here. And so that's what we're up against as coaches, as leaders, as anyone that's committed to a vision beyond the status quo. This is what's at play. This is why just inviting people to just think bigger, or just let go of your resistance, or it's all a made up story. No, that is not how that occurs to this person. This does not occur like a made up story. Leo, you see a muscle dude is relaxing on a soft big. So this is how it looks like to you. He's just hanging out, having a good time. He's just doing a bit of Pilates. He's stretching. What a good thigh stretch. He's really getting that quadricep stretched out there. Or maybe he's like this, just doing some sick moves. I guess that you could have it be like that. I take my clients from here to here. Need I say more? Send me money today. Let's see. What's been up for me this week? This requires a sip of tea to even think. I guess the distinction that's there for me, I was talking to Brian before we hopped on. The thing that I'm very present to is how full my days have felt lately. There's just been a lot of conversations, which is it's a really interesting thing being in this kind of business and teaching the work that I teach, which is really that if we set aside the urgency around money, and you have to create some circumstances in your life to allow for that, right? Don't leave your job with 1 month of pay and then desperately try to create all the clients, right? That's going to create urgency. So if we can set that aside, if we can create some abundance and give ourselves space and stay committed, then there become the real work becomes trust the work you're doing here and stay in action and trust that your results will catch up. That means is as you develop your being, as you change the way you show up in the world, at first the world's going to resist that. Then over time, that's going to create a shift. You're changing the way you're vibrating, and the world is going to start to vibrate more in sync with that. At first, it's going to be cacophonous. It's going to create disharmony. And over time, if you're staying true to this new way of being that you're committed to bringing, the world will start to resonate with it. Some people will leave that aren't vibrating like that, and other people will be drawn in. And as we do that, at first, the existing way of creating results, we start to create less results because you're changing the way you're showing up. And the old way of doing things falls away. So naturally, your results they're going to slouch a bit. But as you continue to practice this new way of being, that's going to start to pick up over time. So you have this dip and then an increase. This is tough because we can't see this stood back from it. We don't have the altitude to be like, oh yeah, here I am in this dip. That makes sense. We are just in it. And what we're present to is what's immediately in front of us. We're this dude relaxing on the ball. And so we're like, fuck, the results aren't coming. What do I do? How do I make this work? There you go, Brian. That's the word. From cacophony, which is the opposite of harmony, I believe. Harmonious, cacophonous. A cacophony is like a bunch of clashing sounds. So that's the challenge, is if I keep doing the work over here, at first I'm going to lose results, and results tend to be where we look to get ourselves feedback. The other challenge is that most of us try to do this alone. We don't want to need help. We don't want to need someone else's support, or we're overly reliant on someone else's support rather than having that support be something that has us become ever more in integrity with who we truly are, discovering our own self. And so you have plenty of people that they're changing the surface, they're changing what they're doing, but they're not changing who they're being. All this to say, what's going on in my life right now and in my business is that I'm creating shifts, and I'm at that point where there's a bit of a lull in my practice. There's plenty for me to do. I'm up to a lot, but I have clients that have completed, and I just noticed we're heading into the December break and I've got some spots available. And so on the one hand, there's the part of me that's like, do all the work. Don't trust this. You need to get into action immediately, Adam, yesterday, whatever. And then there's another part of me that recognizes like, yeah, this is always the way it goes. My work has always gone in cycles, and usually those cycles are a function of whatever breakthroughs I'm creating. And then there's time for it to catch up, put what I've learned into practice, blah, 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 blah. And so the funny thing in that is I don't have a ton of clients right now. I'm not full by any stretch of the imagination, but I have a ton of things going on. There's just a lot happening in my calendar. I have, I noticed that the world is bringing me a lot of people that are like, hey, I think I want to train as a coach. Can I talk to you about the training you used to lead and that you still talk about? Totally. So I'm in a lot of conversations like that. I've been putting a lot of people into Accomplishment Coaching's training program. I notice there's a lot of people that probably aren't my clients, but they're people that I can serve, meaning they're not likely to want to commit to the kind of commitment that I create in a one-on-one coaching container, but they are, there's something that I have to offer them. Maybe it's even just a book recommendation or a conversation or a referral to another coach. So there's a lot of that going on. And where that's led is very full days that don't necessarily, if you were to look sort of with your feet on the ground at like, what's Adam doing in his calendar? My dad always wants to ask the question, well, like, Adam, how does this create money for you? That's his entire, how did going and doing a vision fast create money for you? That's what I want to know, which would be sort of like investing money in a mutual fund, 3 days later, seeing the mutual fund go down and be like, well, how does this create money? It's the wrong question, right? But it makes sense as a question right there in the moment, in the midst, because that's the human response. Give me the ROI immediately. And so a lot of what the world, the universe, a lot of just what's showing up for me right now is not immediate money creators. And I trust that that's the service there is for me to offer the world in this moment. What that creates is that more of that tension where I can look at my calendar and I can be frustrated by everything that's there that doesn't immediately get me money or clients or whatever. Or I can relate to it like a gift, an opportunity to be of service. And it's cool because in the Creating Clients course, we've got 10 of us going through it. Some Leo's here in the comments. Some of us are in that together. A lot of the work is about unburdening ourselves from that expectation that the crop we planted yesterday immediately bear fruit today. And instead, I'm doing this for you, Evan, we're learning to live as farmers, to honor the seasons, to honor the trust that is required, to honor the way that life progresses. That's what a farmer does. They plant the seeds and they know that not all those seeds will grow. And they know that overwatering a plant will kill it just as much as underwatering it will. And we need to create our own abundance in order to do that. And so the beauty of this, morning, Andrew, I'm going to talk to your question in a sec, Evan. The beauty of this is that the work that's happening with a lot of the people in our Creating Clients course, Andrew's here as well, that's showing up in my practice too. And this is the magic of coaching, is that whatever breakthroughs we're sourcing in the world, whatever we're creating in the world through our work, it's there for us to take on too. So I'm in the same place, maybe at a different rung or a different level or whatever, but like I can relate to a lot of what my people are going through right now. I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. It takes trust. And in that group where, a lot of people are starting to feel the shift. And what I know is that, sorry, my face is quite itchy this morning. I'm trying to give myself COVID. What I know is that as our being shifts, it takes a little bit of time for the results to catch up. Morning, Jess. And the results do catch up. So it's kind of a cool thing to get to see like, oh yeah, it's happening over here too, right? There's no separation from me and the people I'm working with. Evan says, do you create space? The wording, I'm just going to try and get it. Do you create space for taking breaks from your work for extended periods of time? Yes, I do, Evan. I'll share what I do now, how I got there, and then we'll bring Bryan on. So what I do currently is we're actually heading into a break, the December break. So these days, Bay and I, she's doing a little different now, but I take all of December and all of June off. So I take the whole month off. And the way we arrived at that was initially for the first 5 years of my work as coach, I took no time off. Maybe every fifth week, we would call it. So, those months where there's 5 weeks in them, I was coaching 4 weeks. And then that fifth week, there's the blessed break. But 4 weeks of vacation's bullshit, frankly. That's so little. And I know in the States that, well, one of the things I know about the States is that there's less vacation time there than I think any other developed country. The United States has a very ironically overworked culture. And that's saying something because Japan is a developed nation. And I don't know, there's probably competition between Japan and the States, but anyhow, the States is like a standout in this regard. 4 weeks is not enough vacation, at least not for me and the level of work that I'm working at. I'm holding a lot in all of the stuff that I'm up to. 4 weeks, especially when I was doing it that way, like 1 week every 3 months, was like water in the desert, it was a little bit. And what happened was my parents were like, hey, why don't we all go to Maui? My brother, his wife, they had no kids at this time, Adam, Bay, let's all go to Hawaii and take a vacation on Maui. And so Bay and I were like, yes, let's do it. I coached a bit while I was there, but we came back and we were like, oh my God, that was amazing. Why haven't we been creating time for vacation? This is crazy. And we said, well, we live like our whole message, our life is about declaring a result that seems out there in the field of possibility. You don't know how to make it happen, and then creating it as a possibility. Declare the result and make it happen. Fulfill on it. And so that's what we did. We said, okay, from here forward, what are we going to do? What would feel amazing to us? Not just good, but like incredible. And we thought, well, taking 2 months out of the year off would be amazing. That'd be ridiculous. And so we started doing that. And I had initial clients that were still going through those months. And I had to change it. And then I had to, everyone that I talked to after that, I enrolled them in that. Hey, Anna. Hello from the Swiss. I had to enroll my new clients like, hey, this is what it looks like to work with me. We're still working for a year, but it's spread out over 14 months. And, the December and June are the break months. And as I've done that more, I notice what a gift it is to the client, because during that month, we're taking away the floor of coaching, the support. And so they get to see, what do I go back to? What stays in place now that I've had this? What doesn't show up by virtue of having a coach? What do I wish I could bring? What do I just stop relying? All of this sort of stuff comes to the foreground. So it really breaks up the rhythm with the client. It breaks up the monotony, and it breaks up the automaticity that can show up in coaching. And that creates something really beautiful. And further, I go away and I've had this amazing month off. And then I come back and I'm like, all right, I've got all these ideas for this person. I'm seeing them with fresh eyes, which is a little bit like what can happen when someone's worked with a coach for a year and then a new coach comes in and is like, I can see this, because they're not vibrating at the same frequency as that client. So taking breaks away from that can really open some stuff up. Leo, yes, I do. So often we create practices. And sometimes like in the Forge, there's stuff that's happening during that month off, but we're much less active. And in truth, because I love what I do, I'm not militant about it. So if a client reached out during that time off and was like, I really need some support, I would probably check in with them and then offer them that support if that felt good to me. Which people love to be like, you're not honoring your time off, which I often experience kind of like the energy behind that is often like, Adam's not totally doing what he's saying he's doing, which is something I wish I was doing. So I don't have to feel bad for not doing it because he's not the real deal. So, some flavor of that. There's a little bit of that in there, or at least that's how I experience it. In truth, for me, taking that time off is more about creating a really blank open slate. And then if what shows up for me is, hey, this person could really use some support, great. That feels so good for me in those moments. Yes, Evan, I love the way you put that. You have a gift with metaphor, my friend. If you treat coaching like art, you have to walk away from your pieces sometimes and let them sit. It's so true. Okay, I've been yammering away for a while. We're going to bring Bryan on. First, I'm going to tell you how I know him, and then I'm going to have him come on. So Bryan and I met while I was leading coach training in San Diego. About a year, not even a year into going full-time into coaching, the coach I was working with at the time, who I was training coaches with in Seattle, she was like, hey, I want to enroll you something. Come train coaches with me in San Diego as well. And I was like, I have $0. I have negative money. I have only enough runway for 4 months. And until I actually fully qualify for this position I'm going to be operating in, I'm going to be paying for my flights down there and for my hotel and everything. And it it made no sense whatsoever, like most of this. And yet still I saw possibility. And I didn't know how, but I said yes. And so I came down and started training coaches in San Diego 1 week, and then I'd be in Seattle 1 week. So for about a year, I was only in town 2 weekends out of every month. It was an insane year. It was the biggest pressure cooker I've ever been in. And I had lots of breakdowns and lots of subsequent breakthroughs during that year. Bryan was one of the guest clients. So for these coaches, we would bring in guest clients that would come in every weekend, 1 weekend every month, sit, they'd get coached, the coach would get feedback. And their job was to be client and to get the advantage of free coaching from all these coaches. They basically got a new coach every month, but they got coached for the whole year. And on the backside of that, I think Bryan did that program. Let's bring him on so we can find out. So Bryan, put your mic on, put your camera on, get yourself in here.
Let's
Mic's
do the
on.
mic first. And
yeah, mic, check. Here comes.
the
Bam! Hello. So you were a guest client. I got that part right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
And
correct.
then did you do the program right after, or how did that play out for you? Or did you I think you did the program, right?
The coaching program?
Yeah, the coach training program.
No, actually the coaching program that did me after that episode, that actually was a time that it changed my life in that period.
Uh-huh.
From being the guest coach, I had no idea what was going to happen to me personally. I was the guest coach. So I was the guest
Client, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I get a coach, and this is interesting because it was like having a new relationship every 30 days.
Yes. One
Because
where you're getting intimate quickly.
the first one I was like, I love this. We're really getting into it. We're diving. I trust them. It's intimate. They're gone.
See ya. Yeah.
Wait. I feel like we're breaking up, but hey, here's a new one.
Yeah.
And it was weird for the first couple ones, but I realized what that created.
Uh-huh.
And my intention was to show up as the best client I could have, feedback, fully engaged. And through the process, it was transforming me into being a coach, because after I went through that program, people started popping up all over the place. Tell me about this. What do you mean? I've got questions. I can't figure this out. And all of a sudden it pulled me into a role of being a coach. I had no intention of being a coach. It wasn't like I sat on my wall and go, someday I'm going to be a coach. It's the
Right. You were a
furthest thing from
speaker at
my
the time,
mind.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a speaker, and I was a social media person, and I just wanted to get better at that.
Right.
Coaching wasn't even on my radar.
And so did you take the coach training program after that, or was that your extent? You were a guest client and then moved on from it.
Right. I was guest
Got
client,
it.
and after that I began to figure out, what does this coaching thing mean? How am I going to be a coach? This is showed up. Somebody afterwards said, I don't want to be a coach. They said, wait, are people coming to you and sharing details? Yes. Are you giving some kind of homework to them? Yes. Are you following up with them? Yes. Do you care more about the results than they do? Yes. Welcome. You're a coach. So afterwards, I had to figure out, because my life had shifted from what I thought I was going to be to now, how is this coaching going to show up in my life?
Love it. Cool story. Good origin story. So riddle me this. What are we going to coach around today? What are we going to dive into?
That's a good question.
Great starter, hey?
Right. I think something is happening in my life right now. I about the top of COVID, I've been working on building the coaching business, working on moving people from scattered to scaling their businesses and being effective at that. But right about the top of it, when everything was changing, I had a conversation with myself. I said, is this a hobby, or is this really what you're serious about? And I began to take full responsibility, almost like birthing a baby. Like, this is not somebody's baby you're watching. This is yours. Are you going to be
Right.
responsible for everything? And I made that commitment. When I did, everything began to show up differently. And so I began to look for people, look for clients, serve them in the best way that I could. But something is showing up now that I'm doing more than just helping you to create efficient systems, make your technology work, learn to work with teams. I'm beginning to realize that I'm helping them build a way of running their business that they never have thought of before, a way of communicating, a way of expressing their voice, a way of leveraging technology and people. And it's almost starting to become kind of like a movement. So I am learning so much more about myself and how I need to show up. And I think that I always, it seems to lately, I want to know what I want to know. I want to know that thing that I don't know that I don't know. And there's something beginning to shift for me to break out and show up as Brendan Bouchard, Elisa Nichols, and Adam, somebody with the bold courage to share my story and show it, and to lead others, and to focus on how I can do this in an exponential way.
Okay. So I got the I want to learn what I don't know. And then I got sort of like maybe a loose idea of like this notion of exponential growth or 10xing or, whatever the term
Yeah,
for it is.
yeah.
But what I'm not clear is the like, what is it you want to create? What are you trying to like, what for do that stuff towards what?
Excellent. What I want to create and what I'm on my way of creating is being that individual who is able to speak to large people, large crowds, supported by programs
Uh-huh.
that is helping people to become excellent at running their businesses and scaling them. Businesses like the best personal development program in the world, you learn so much about yourself. And I want to lead by example. And what that feels like is being even more vulnerable and sharing more of my story, and letting go of what people may think or what people may see, taking more risks, being a really good student and learning what I need to do, how I need to do, how I need to change it. It's like Bryan is going through a shepherding of life. Like life is teaching me that I was created for something quite big, and everything I've been going through has been a process in that.
Okay.
And there may be resistance, there may be some fear showing up. I know that oftentimes, thank you for letting me just go into this. And oftentimes my brain snaps into fear and doubt, and snaps into how. It immediately starts thinking of, we got to work on this, and we got to work on this, and we got to create it, or we have to craft, or we have to um, dictate how it's going to turn out to be safe and secure, when that's not even how it's going to happen. The world of the unknown, the world of the uncertain is where this happens, and allowing life to be able to create the clients, to be able to create that path.
Are you clear on what it is?
The thing that I'm creating.
Well, you just so what you just said was I start thinking about how to create it. So I'm asking, are you clear on what it is?
Um, I start thinking about how to, immediately my brain goes into the analytical thinking of, what do I need to do to guarantee that this will work, or guarantee.
Sorry, I don't think you're answering my question. Do you
Okay.
remember my question?
Yes, what it was.
Are you clear on what it is?
No.
Okay, great. Awesome.
I love you.
I love you too. So, what is it? What's the it that you want to create? And let's do it this way. Let me start by reflecting something. I notice you have access to a great deal of vision, but not so much. I'm not clear so much on like where the rubber hits the pavement. And so I want to create a bit of a container in which we can explore this. So, like, where do you want to be, say, in a year's time, as far
Okay.
as this vision is concerned?
Okay. So as far as the vision is concerned, I look at it, what would be fun? And what would be fun is that in a year's time, I'm traveling to fun, adventurous places, um, paid for by others or paid for by the business. I'm
Okay.
dropping into communities, or or other businesses as an influence, and creating community, creating bonding, creating movement, um, and showing up in the different places. Some of them may be communities I visit. Some of them may be communities or businesses that I'm a part of. But I'm traveling the world, getting to experience the world, having a great time, meeting great people, while being an influence and supported by business and programs and doing that. What would be fun is I've got a beautiful traveling partner that goes with me, and she and I developing just the deepest relationship. She's as powerful as I am. Um, what that would look like is a growing audience and community of thousands and thousands of people that I'm able to influence by what we're doing.
Okay. How specific would you say that was?
How specific in far as like details,
Sure.
where I'm going to be
As far as
traveling?
specificity is concerned.
Yeah,
Like,
probably vague.
okay, great. Yeah. I mean, I get the idea. I'm just not like, if we imagined that we were going to use this as a measuring stick or a way for like a child to hold you accountable, not to make you wrong or force you to do it, but just like, hey, did he do it or not? I think that child would not have much chance.
Okay,
So let's get a little more specific. Like,
great.
what specifically would you want to be creating or making that would be a reflection of that vision you have?
So in a year,
Mhm.
20K income coming each month,
Okay,
which
great.
which takes care of everything that I need to run the business, everything that I need to run life. That it's it makes my life very, very comfortable.
Okay,
Okay. Um, the business is running well, having a large number of clients, maybe 10 one-on-one clients, and maybe a couple hundred people in a separate program that's not a one-on-one. That is all supported by teams and by assistant coaches and virtual assistants, so that is flowing with or without Bryan, and that's flowing well.
okay. So you don't have to touch that really?
No, don't need to
Okay,
touch it.
okay.
Okay. And how else can it be more specific? Maybe each month traveling to a place for business or for fun that I've never been to before.
Okay.
There's so much of the world that I want to explore. So
Okie
in a
dokie.
year, Thailand, Bali, Australia, many trips to Maui. I fell in love with Maui. Okay.
Was there more?
Yeah. My physical fitness, my wellness. I'm in very, very good shape, flexible, strong, um, hiking often, doing sports often, and just really diving deep into nature as often as I can, because it fulfills me and feeds my soul. Um, that every month I hold a workshop teaching people how to balance stones using breath work and listening to the balance, called rock yoga, in an effort to teach them instant meditation and witnessing a shift in their body. It's a kind of a practice that I have had, but I haven't fully leaned into it. So that would probably also be there.
Okay, got it. So we've got like a business that's making 20K a month, 10 one-on-one people, 200 people in a program that you don't have to necessarily touch very much. You might want to, but you don't have to. You're traveling to a new location every month. Uh, Physically, you're flexible, healthy, living good life, and also doing some rock yoga to some extent, whatever that is, and breathing exercises and stuff like that.
Correct. Oh,
Okay.
we didn't put the partner in there. I have an amazing relationship with a wonderful woman who is powerful in her own nature. She has her own business, her own destiny, her own mission, and is strong in that. And together we're strong. We're able to travel together anywhere that we go. I may go with her, she may go with me. We may witness each other's journey separately. and there would be the beginning of a conversation of having a child.
Got it. Okay, got it. So there's a partner in this too, creating a
Yes.
partner.
Yes.
Okay, great. What do you notice about where we started and where we are now?
A lot more specific. This dream is so very real, and I can see it and I can feel it, and it's very, very specific.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I noticed that too. Like there's something we can hold on to. We
Yeah.
could actually see if you're going towards it or not.
And I see that I was actually resisting that, giving that kind of detail out. That was
How
it.
come?
I don't know. I just noticed that there was a resistance of going into that detail. Um, what if it what if it actually comes true? I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know what that's going to feel like. It's unpredictable. It's unsafe. That's what I can see is the resistance coming up, wanting to pull me back into safe, into predictable, into comfort.
What's safe about keeping it vague?
That if it doesn't happen, I'm not disappointed because it's so vague.
Mm, right. There's no failure.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Got it. I'm going to speak to people listening, watching for a moment. Is that okay?
Please.
Okay, great. So where we are with Bryan is we started with like Bryan's one of these people with like a beautiful ability to think blue sky. And what will typically happen in the world is people with this capacity learn, kind of like Bryan's being generous enough to share with us, like, oh, if I keep it vague, I never fail. It's like, as long as I don't set a clear, I want to win the Olympics by 2020, I've got the rest of my life and then maybe even my afterlife to win the Olympics at some point. But as soon as we say 2020, well, shit, now you got shit to do. Or you're going to have to confront not getting it and be with everything that drives up. Now, not getting something is also a gift because then we can look and see like, hey, how come I didn't get it? But we're not there yet. So I love, Bryan, that you're acknowledging there's some resistance showing up because that's typically what will happen is as we try to take this beautiful vision up in the clouds and bring it down onto the road, onto the ground where we can begin to do something about it, we're going to have some resistance. I'd rather stay up here. I was going to say people that tend to have learned this pattern will find themselves in careers that really reward this. So they'll be the visionaries. They'll be like Shingy at the Yahoo company being like, digital. Well, what do you mean by that, Shingy? Shut up, digital, just digital, man. Like, look, it's a picture of a rocket ship. You're like, no, but I need to know how that impacts this microchip in my phone. Digital. So it's not bad. There's totally a way we can live our life from here. But Bryan's in this conversation, I assume, because he wants to broaden his range, as opposed to just get more and more focused in the range of purely staying in the visionary space. Have I said anything you disagree with, Bryan, so I can clean it up if needed? Okay, great.
Nope. I'm loving this.
Okay, great. Do you want to say digital just to see if it's fun for you?
It's digital. It's digital.
Great.
Couldn't get
Okay.
the accent in there.
So, we've got a couple things on the table now. We've got like sort of the career or the coaching or the whatever you do to make money path. We've got the travel. We've got the health yoga, the health flexibility kind of thing. We've got the rock yoga. We've got the partner. Which of those paths should we be exploring?
Probably the business, because the business seems to be the foundation for everything.
Okay, great. So,
And
there's
in an interesting way, the business is a reflection of me. I'm noticing that. So
tell me more.
I'm noticing that as the business grows, it is insufficient for Bryan to be the same Bryan that Bryan was. And so something new comes up. So I get to explore a different part of myself. I get to let stuff go. I get to grow. I get to teach myself. And as I just become even more Bryan than I've ever been, then that gets reflected in the business and things start to work more effectively. People just start to show up.
Okay. Okay, got it. That makes sense. So I think what I heard you say is like, as you shift, then the business will shift. Am I missing anything in that? I don't want to overly simplify what you said.
Yeah, no, completely. There's like a a partnership
Uh-huh.
that I'll shift and the business shifts, or the business grows. Now I've got to shift to keep up with that, because the
Right.
previous the way I was being wasn't enough to keep this new growth from going.
Got it. Snake eating its own tail, kind of like one leads
Yeah.
into the other, leads back into the one. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So the business I know has like a bunch of different moving pieces. There's like 20K a month is the money. There's the 10 one-on-one clients. There's the 200 people in a program. Where if we were, we've got like a whole bunch of stuff, right? That's like a coaching relationship worth of stuff to work on. And yet we have just the time we have. So where would we put our attention, or where would you like to put your attention for this conversation?
We'd focus our attention on the increase of the one-on-one clients.
Great. Okay. Okay. So what would you want to leave this conversation with if we were speaking about one-on-one clients?
If we're speaking about one-on-one clients, the results that I'd want to see after this conversation is a knowingness that nothing is going to prevent me from doing what I need to do to be able to create more one-on-one clients, kind of like a courage, kind of like a confidence.
Hmm. So you, I think the way I heard you word that was almost like with a double negative, like nothing will prevent me from knowing what, but it sounded kind of like I want to know I can do it.
Yeah, there's a feeling like a lack of confidence and lack of courage, but kind of like I don't expect to have the answers, um, but almost like a burning commitment to the 10 clients is what I'm going for. We are going to create that, Brian, hell or high water. Here we go. Every day, it's a burning desire to go serve them. Almost like it feels like a mission.
Mhm.
Almost like it's a non-negotiable that it's non-negotiable that I don't figure out how to be able to create these kind of clients.
Got it. I noticed as you were speaking about this that it felt like some energy shifted for you, or there was some emotion. Tell me about that. What showed up for you there?
Almost like an emotion that there's me that's holding me back.
Uh-huh.
Um, there is a fear of failing, but combined with I hear the accolades from the clients that I have. Sometimes they sing, they're so excited. And the other part of that is just that excitement of working with these people every week, that who I am and my genius and who they are is creating such an amazing relationship that it would bring me to tears. There's an excitement of being and living in that every week.
Hmm. I really get that. And that's not the texture of the emotion I felt show up for you.
Thank you.
Now, that doesn't have to mean anything,
Right.
right? Like that's just not when I heard you describe that, I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because that's not like what I felt a little more like sadness or something else. So I'm curious, and it feels like you might be a little in touch with it even in this moment.
Yeah. Almost like I'm disappointed in myself, almost like I've been working so hard at getting this going and I don't see the needle moving forward. I don't see it. I don't see the results like you were talking about earlier.
Uh-huh.
I'm lacking trust in the process, maybe lacking believing in myself, to be able to make this happen. I'm, like you said earlier, the farmer looking his field going, come on, come on.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Would you be willing to take a breath and sit with that feeling? And I'm going to give you a little more direction before you do it.
Okay.
Um,
Yes.
but as I speak, just notice where your breath is in your body. Is it in your throat? Is it in your chest? How far down is your breath without? Great. Okay. One step ahead of me. So just keep some attention, some awareness, a little bit of that as I'm speaking.
Okay.
Um, I noticed that one of the things I could rely on you for, Bryan, is to bring joy and possibility into any space, any team, any project. If I had a project where people were like, this is hopeless, you could be the person I would put on that team, and there would be hope found. There would be hope in the faintest glimmer of light. You are the grass growing through the concrete. I also notice that from the parts that sometimes feel a little hopeless or forlorn or sad, that becomes a strategy. It becomes something layered over top. So when I felt your sadness, I was also present to, like, when I asked that question, like, here's all the hopeful stuff that I can say about it. This is making sense? Or if you froze, okay, you're good. You're just being stoic.
No, sorry.
Yeah, you're totally fine. So there's that emotion. And then there was sort of like but my clients say this, and I can see the possibility, like kind of a race to like prove to yourself almost the possibility that you are. And so what I would invite you to do here is, first of all, that's excess. You don't need to layer that on top. It's kind of like, if I was to try to prove to myself that I was brilliant, you'd be like, that's dumb, Adam. Stop. Like, and that choice of words is perfect. What are you trying to prove that you're brilliant? We all get it, Adam. Knock it off. It's in the way rather than really of service. So I'm going to invite you to just take a few breaths and feel into that emotion that showed up for you, and see if you can just let it exist. See if you can find it a place in your body for a few moments, and just practice that right now.
Allowing that, there you go, allowing that emotion to be able to exist. Okay.
Hey, you're doing beautiful work right now. Take just another moment or two to be there with it. What are you present to?
Scared. Tears of being scared. My whole body temperature just increased. Solar plexus feeling like I've been hit.
Mm.
Almost scared for my life kind of feeling.
Uh-huh.
Don't like it. Very uncomfortable. Feeling like, what do I got to do to run? What do I got to do to go? What do I got to do to hide?
That makes so much sense, especially for one who is possibility, to be with, at times, the hopelessness of all of this. And you and I have known each other for a while. This isn't like the first week you've been trying this, and it's like, fuck, the fuck. It's been, I don't know how many years, right?
Yeah.
What are you present to in this moment?
In this very moment, in this very breath, it's like, I see you. I thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of me. This is the thing that we're going to release. It's almost like I was there. It almost like feels like somebody shut off the movie.
Mm.
The movie's not playing anymore. It's still it's there. Like I said, it'll show up without even thinking. Oh, but I'm this. Oh, but I'm that. Oh, but I'm this. Oh, but I'm that. Like, what was that about? I didn't ask you to impress me with who you are. I didn't ask you to show me how great you are. Why did you do that? Why did you overperform? Why did you over entertain? Oh, I'm really good at entertaining.
Yes. Yes, you are.
Because if
Even your shirt. I rarely get shown up on these shows, but here you are.
Yeah. And because and maybe because there were a couple of circumstances and traumatic situations that my brain still thinks that could happen again.
Of course. It's
Yeah.
the design of our brain.
Yeah.
This happened then. It could happen again.
And as I grow and as things begin to get amazing, it shows up, hey, don't get so cocky. That could so happen again. Remember what it felt like. Remember what it looked like. And it convinces me that actually could happen again. scares the crap out of me.
So thanks, Lydia. Lydia just says she's so resonating with this. So thanks, Brian, I
Thank
really
you.
honor the work you're doing. It's resonating with other people too. So you're
I'm
doing
honored.
work for more than just yourself here.
I'm
Don't
honored.
let that be the reason you're doing the work. I just want you to know that that's when we're doing work like this, we're doing it for more than just ourselves.
Thank you, Lydia, but I know this is right now about me.
Yeah, great.
Right. And
Fine.
I'm honored. I'm honored.
So tell me about the connection between this feeling, this emotion, what's showing up for you here, and creating clients.
Immediately, the first thing that comes to mind is as I create these clients and I'm visible and I'm loud and seen, that enemy is going to find me again. I've done really well over the years by hiding to survive, and I had to. And so the feeling is like, you're going to help so many people, yeah, but they're going to see me. The enemy, the terror, it's going to see me. It's going to come get me again.
Mm.
That's the first thing that comes to mind.
What will that look like in real terms?
In real terms, creating 10 clients, having wonderful income, having a business, and it disappearing the very next day because of somebody else's actions that I couldn't control.
Oh, interesting. So you're afraid of failing. That's the emotion. I'm going to fail. Is that
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
If I create this, then it's all going to be taken away from me anyhow.
Yeah, it could all be taken away from me.
Got it. How does this whole thing, so there's like this underlying feeling that's there for you, then there's the stuff put over top of it. How does that show up? How does that exist? How does that show up when it comes to you creating clients, like when you're talking to people or doing the work to create clients?
How it shows up is like maybe not even realizing it. I'm not making an offer. I'm not suggesting we work together. I'm staying in this comfortable, chatty space. Um, I'll over communicate, over try to help, and really not listen fully to what they
Hmm.
need. I won't let good be good enough. Like, I already want to work with you, Brian. Why are you trying to convince me more that I need to work with you?
Hmm.
I won't. I won't completely trust the process.
I noticed you had a lot of answers there and they were pretty quick, which is often a sign like of what we already know, like here's the book of knowledge and the stuff I already know.
Okay.
And I know you, at the start of this, you said like, I want to know what I don't know, or I want to get at that, which I imagine is down the path of the emotion that's there again. So like see if you can plug into this, again, practice breathing, just notice where your breath is, let yourself feel this. And then like, hey, how is this guy getting in the way? Or how can I see where this interacts with this vision or this dream or this having one-on-one clients? How do these two connect?
So that deep despair part, how does that interact with getting the clients?
Yeah. And you might want to just for this, you might have to be in it a bit, right? Like if you get
Yeah.
into your head and start to think the answer to that question, that's going to be different from feeling into the emotion and then letting yourself be with that. And then, oh, that was the end of the thing I had to say.
Yeah. So I'm sitting with that. I'm breathing with that. I'm going back to that place
Uh-huh.
because it has to be a conscious choice to open that up again.
Yes.
I don't know why the word smackdown comes to mind.
Mm.
I'm gonna be having the clients, being joyful, creating, being the kid. This this sad part says, yeah, go ahead. You're going to be smacked down again, aggressively, violently taken into submission.
Mm. So then what does this happen when you're talking to someone, like you're at a networking event or something, you're talking and then, like that's there. Like, where are you sort of seeing this?
Now that I'm aware of it, I'll see it when I'm talking and communicating with somebody and it's flowing and it's joyful and it's a great experience and it's effortless. And then I do something just to hop out of that or I'll freeze. I will literally stop that momentum, or I'll do something stupid. I'll trip, body will do something and it pops the bubble of what was being created. Now that I'm aware of it, I can see where it's effortless, it's fun, it's joyful, this is good, this is wonderful stuff. You said what, Brian? I can't believe you just said that. Or
do you have an example?
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think an example would be, I'm in my zone of genius, we're creating, and then I'll stop. I'll stop creating. And they're like, well, what do we do next? Where are we going? And they got to wake me up. I will not listen. I'll get in my head. And instead of listening, I'll start telling them what I need to do. I'll go I'll go goofy, silly, funny to avoid that feeling.
Uh, so it's kind of like the more present you are to possibility, the scarier it is.
Yeah.
And then every mistake, then the stakes are way up. Every mistake you make is like, fuck, that's proving the truth that you can't have the possibility you're present to. So what are some of the strategies you've learned to sort of mitigate for this? You know, you mentioned getting goofy. What else can you see you've learned to do?
One of the strategies, I'll get out of my head and into theirs. So I'll start asking them questions. It's like, what would that feel like? What possibilities would that bring up? That sounds amazing. What else? And I will dive into their vision and their spirit to bring that out, because then that's louder and brighter than what's going on with my head. And it pulls me back into that space.
Does that strategy work?
Actually, it now that I'm where it comes from, that it works out really well, because then I start listening deeper to what they really want, and some cool stuff has happened because of that. And I never understood how it happened, but it does. They're like, wow, I've never thought of that before. I never talked about that before. I never shared that before. I never thought that was possible before. So the strategy of focusing on them actually did some good.
Okay. Is there any way in which it doesn't work?
Yes. When they ask me a question that when we're engaging and it's time for me to be in my zone of genius and for me to do what I do really, really well, I'll do that. And like, okay, thanks, but I really asked you that question. Why are you avoiding that? And super, super embarrassed.
And what's the kind of question that you'd be avoiding?
What would you do? What would you do? How would you do this? Can you be more clear? I don't understand completely. That doesn't seem quite right for me. Challenges or objections, or tell me more. I think that one really stops me. Is like, this is amazing, tell me more. And I find myself, I'll stop. Like, whoa, what just happened? And I want
There's kind of a great strategy when what is next in the moment is for them to be more in the space. But when there's you more in the space and you're terrified you're going to fuck it up, then it just keeps getting put over there, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like, but I thought we were throwing a ball back and forward and I just keep ending up with the ball in my hands, something along those lines.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Any other strategies you can see?
Under delivering.
Hmm. Tell me more.
Yeah, yeah. With sometimes without even noticing it, late on the deliverable, not quite get it right, not take the time to go over the details. I'll miss something that I know I got, but I'll miss something to mess it up so that they'll be disappointed, and then I proven myself right, and then I've got to backpedal and entertain,
Uh,
and pull up all these strategies to um, instead of like yep, that happened. Yep, didn't nail that. Let's go
uh,
on from that.
be in control of the failure. At least I sunk the ship. Wasn't a meteor or something. I was fully in control. So maybe I could do something, that sort of idea.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Got it. Got it. So what do you see there might be to practice from? Well, actually, before we go there, what are you taking from this conversation, Brian?
um, I'm taking from the conversation not only the gratitude of exploring this,
Okay,
but
cool.
seeing something that there was an I don't know that I didn't know, that there was something, that there's been something constantly going on, that not even aware of it. It almost feels like the minute I see it, it's like, nope, 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 you didn't see that. Look over there. But nope, nope, look over there. Okay. Wait, wasn't that? Nope, nope, that wasn't that. Go look over there. And it's been really preventing what could the growth that I could be having.
So that, to hear you describe that, sounded kind of like meta. It was almost like your awareness about the awareness you're creating. Like, oh, I'm seeing something, and then I notice I'm sort of like in resistance to seeing that thing.
Yeah.
But I'm asking, what are you seeing? So like nothing wrong with that. That's
Right.
great information too. But it also, I notice if we hang out in the meta about, oh, this is the experience I'm having of seeing something, that's another way
Hmm.
to not actually just call a spade a spade.
There's
So
another
what are
spade.
you actually, what's the awareness you're creating in this conversation?
The awareness that I'm creating for myself is there's, I guess the best way for me to say it is that there's a darkness. There's a darkness and this really deep, deep, deep fear that's creeping up and sprouting up and surprising places. And I've trimmed it, cut it back, chopped it, but that darkness is still there, still rooted,
Uh-huh.
and coming back in several different ways.
Got it. What do you see there might be to practice from that awareness?
Doing some weeding, um,
So as to,
finding support, finding guidance, finding a way to go in. Let's go for that root, remove that root so that it doesn't sprout up. And I know that it will take being connected. It will it'll take being supported, because if I've been able to clear out the root, I would have been able to do it already. But it'll take it's a root. It was a root of darkness that I wasn't aware of, really wasn't consciously willing to admit or even be aware of, that now, in order for me to serve those people and to be in that place, this root's got to go somehow, some way. That's like the commitment that I'm getting from this. So I see you now.
how is that? So what I heard there is like, I got to remove this. This should not be there.
That was the feeling. Yeah.
Okay, great. How is that different from what you've been trying to do up until this point?
Mitigate it. It sprouts here. Let's just try to rip that out. It sprouts here. So before, I would just try to mitigate it, thinking I was taking care of it. Um, Different routines, learning some stuff, um, growing a little bit, thinking that would have taken care of it. I thought I was addressing the real problem, Wasn't.
So it sounds kind of like you're operating you're doing, if the previous practice was like, remove this, but you're like, oh, I was trying to remove it by cutting the branches off. The new practice is remove it by uprooting it. So it sounds kind of like it's the same practice, but just at a deeper scale.
Yeah, it's like
Got it.
let's stop spending so much time and energy trying to cut off the branches. Let's get rid of this root that's continually affecting you. And when you do, you get in with the dirt, you change the dirt, you make sure that there's no remnants of the root, and now in planting something better that's going to grow up in its place.
What if this is a fundamental aspect of possibility? So I'm not saying it is. I'm just curious. Let's say that this thing, this darkness that you've described, is fundamentally a part of what shows up with possibility. Then what would that practice of trying to rip this out by the root achieve?
It's a fun, let me think I understand. It's a fundamental part of possibility.
Yes,
Okay.
which is what you are. So who you are is possibility. I hear you saying there's this darkness that must be excised. It must be removed. And I'm asking the question, what if this darkness is possibility? What if they are inextricable from one another? What if it's the yin and the yang? Then what would trying to remove this from the root achieve?
It would kill the possibility.
Aha.
So can I love it? Can I appreciate it? Can I allow it to be a part of me as much as the light is? And that actually thought is scary initially. That yeah, you're not getting rid of this. It's actually a part. It's coming up stronger because you're moving more into possibility. Ooh, it almost feels like I'm ashamed of it. So I don't want anybody else to see it. That's fascinating. It's there. I can't get rid of it, but I don't want anybody to see it. When
That's
actually
one
it's
way of getting rid of it, right? Hide it, kill it, cut the branches. Oh, that strategy didn't work. Let's go nuclear or nuclear for those in the South. Get it up by the roots. That didn't work. What else can I do? I'm just offering that as a possibility that
no,
this goes hand in hand.
and
Is your
I
go
love that.
ahead.
Yeah, I would say the feeling I immediately get is I love that because I'm exploring really, really, really telling my story, really sharing my story, not just entertaining, but really sharing my story, which means that they're going to see that darkness, that ugly side, along with the bright side, and they're going to look at me as what's my reaction. Okay, I heard that. They're looking at me. How are you reacting to it? What now? What are you doing? That darkness is there.
Look at Bryan. He's managed to rip out this hopelessness. If only I could be like that.
Which killed his possibility.
Possibility and fear always exist in equal and opposite countermeasure. It's like blowing up a balloon. That's my
Yeah.
assertion. I'm curious though about your experience. Like as you have ripped the branches out, as you have hid this more and more, is that suggestion consistent for you? Like that the more you have tried to kill this, the less possibility seems to be available.
I love this. I love this because what I was perceiving as this darkness coming up, it's like, oh, I gotta cut this branch off. Well, here's this new possibility. What? New great possibility. And along with it comes some of the darkness. I'm like, where'd that come from? Oh man, now I gotta cut back the darkness again. And I was just giggling with the realization that they're both part of the same. They're both part of the same. and how life says, no, 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 Brian, we have something greater in mind for you. So here comes this other possibility that's being provided. It doesn't depend on you, doesn't need you. Here it comes because you were called to something greater. And then not loving and wanting to see that darkness, it comes right along with it. Then life is like face palming again, dude. But
Love that
almost I
image.
feel a comfort now in the invitation to get to know it, get to see it, let it come out to play. It's stinky, it's smelly, it's not the prettiest thing.
It's emotional.
Yeah, I mean, to be raw and real, that however this face was brought up and I was born with it, there's a mark above my eyebrow that I'm embarrassed about, and I constantly will move to avoid that. But it's a part of me.
Yeah.
And that's an external thing of like, the more possibility that's coming up, the more stronger this darkness is going to be. So the practice of how do I love it? How do I be with it? How do I allow it? How do I let it come out? How do I share it? That doesn't seem so bad.
How will you practice that? Like, what specifically will you put into action if you were to take some practices on?
First thing that comes to mind is visiting it, taking not taking the time to stop the pruning practice. That's immediately stop the pruning practice and sit with it and visit it and spend time with it. Thank it for the possibility. This just I'm feeling like right here, as so weird and strange as I'm saying it, I'm pointing down to my belly, above my belly button. But spend time with it.
Yeah.
Hey, there's this new possibility. Thank you, light. That's the first thing we want to acknowledge. But hey, darkness, I'm not forgetting you. Thank you.
What would be a way to, so I'm just going to have us get really clear since, specifics were something that we avoided. So like specifically, what will that look like this week?
Because I'm thinking about the practices that I have. I'm thinking about the practices that I do. Specifically this week, longer meditation, making the time for longer meditation.
How
And
long?
consistently 40 minutes
Okay. And how many times a week?
daily.
Great.
Because meditation is a practice that gets done every day. That's a non-negotiable.
Love
But
that.
making a way for 40 minutes for allowing it to show up. In my gratitude, wow, I was having trouble spelling that because of what I'm thinking. In my gratitude, looking at the gratitude of what the light has brought and looking for the gratitude that the darkness has brought. It's going to be an interesting exploration. Client was super, super happy today. Loved what I'm doing. So loved how I'm showing up. Excellent. Where was the light in me that showed up? And where was the darkness that showed up to make that possible? That's an interesting, uncomfortable question that I'm willing to have the courage to ask. I can do that
Awesome.
this week.
I have a caveat to add to it.
Oh, please.
It's a great practice. The caveat is layering positivity on top of the darkness, if you call it that, is part of your safety, right?
Yeah, I just did that, didn't
Well, you
I?
get
Yeah.
to decide, right?
Oh, I
So
did. I'll own that. I'll own that. I went
yeah,
positivity and yeah, darkness.
so it's a bit of an off ramp for that safety, right? So I really love the idea of, well, it doesn't matter what I love. I acknowledge the idea, the brilliance, and sort of, hey, what if I just sat with this, gave this some space? And then the invitation would be to take away needing to relate to it in any way. So if you're sitting with it and you're being like, fuck you, that's different. That is further, that's closer to it Then if you're sitting with it, layering something over top of it and not really looking at it.
Yeah.
So that's the first step. And then from there, you might be like, okay, I don't really want to be a fuck you to this anymore. I'm going to like, why are you here? And then, okay, I can sit with you for a little longer. And then like over time, you can start to like love it and be with it. So the invitation is to practice being with it more as opposed to glossing over it.
Yeah, and immediately comes to mind, I've got the two wolves that are part of my possibility. And this
Yes.
one's clean and he's awesome smelling. It smells like lavender and thieves. And he's like coming up like, great. And this other one comes up like, oh my God, walrus breath. Oh my God, you are shaggy. Oh, you're going to kiss me. Oh crap. And you're like, all right, all right, all right. And first few times you're like, oh my God, I need to take a shower. But eventually you're like, okay, bring this in and bring that in, and I'm treating both of them equally with love and appreciation. That's gonna be a practice.
Beautiful. It's such a gift to let people actually have one more practice, which is I don't know if I want to give it. Bear with me. I'm just checking to see if it's for me or for you.
Thank you.
I think it's for me, and I don't think you need it. I think you've got some great practices, and I really want to honor what you've created.
I love that right there, because that right there immediately, I'm like, what? Share that with me. What? There's something that I'm missing. There's something that I'm missing that I'm not going to be able to.
Oh,
It's
here it
enough.
is.
It's enough, Bryan. It's enough.
Yeah. Great catch. Those that are most present to possibility, that can see what's available, what could be, that is also setting you up the most for disappointment, because disappointment exists between what could be and what is. And what tends to happen is people that are possibility, one part of their shadow is to become very cynical, because they're just constantly presented to this gap and they're like, well, what the fuck? Yeah, you say you're going to do this, but it's not going to happen because I've been through this rodeo enough times and I know that it won't happen. And it's just the irony of possibility is that people who are possibility, who are hope, can become the most cynical people. The other side is they can become these, like you put it, like a performer, a clown, a sort of like, it's all magical and they're sprinkling pixie dust on everything. You're like, that's mostly dog turds you're putting that dust on, right? Like, can we just call that a dog turd so we can? So it's a beautiful gift for you to start to own this and to let it exist, because that provides a clearing for other people to be like, oh, wow, Bryan doesn't seem to run away from this part of himself that always seems to be there for me. He seems to have created a beautiful garden from it. That's different than what I've been trying to do, which is rip it out. I wonder if this man has something for me. Yeah.
So exciting. Coming at the right time as I'm learning and exercising, telling my story and sharing it and showing it.
Yeah.
I was watching Lisa Nichols and she said, don't just tell me your story, show me your story. And probably before this, I didn't even know. It's like I was resisting because I got to show that icky walrus breath wolf thing. That's part of it.
The problem isn't that most people don't know how to tell their stories. I'm not coaching anymore. I'm speaking what I believe to be true. The problem is not that most people don't know how to tell their stories. They can learn how to do that and do it with great words. And we hide it from ourselves. We're telling the best story we can, but we can't see beyond the veneer we put over it. And it's like, oh, I don't want to share this. This feels awful. That's the story. That's because all of our clients are like, I don't want to share this. This is awful. So they have the same experience. We need someone to model this for us. And it's scary. It really is.
I'm excited. I'm excited because I see this not only taking it into my practices, but taking it in my work with clients as we create possibilities. Wow.
Beautiful.
Magic's going to happen.
Beautiful work, Bryan.
Well, thank you. Thank you for letting me be here and be in that work and facilitating and not letting me get away with entertaining.
I want to finish by acknowledging you, but before I do, is there anything else to have the conversation for you feel complete?
I have inside of me the hell yes now that I wanted.
Nice. Love that. Really beautiful.
Thanks.
So Bryan, I really acknowledge you for the magic and possibility you are for the planet. You know, it's just in your eyes. There's just a feel like, oh shit, put this guy on a project and we're going to be creating results. We're going to be aiming towards something beyond the cloistered walls of what we know is already available. It's such a gift. And doing so requires tremendous courage. Because if we go for something that is outside of what is currently predictable and reliable, in all likelihood, we won't hit it the first time. And if we did, great. But then the next time we probably won't. And like it's inevitable, right? As we push beyond the realm of what we currently know to be possible, failure waits for us. Failure is the sibling or maybe the twin to possibility. And so I acknowledge you for the light that shines out of your eyes, the beauty, the possibility that you represent. But I also recognize and acknowledge you for the darkness that we've been talking about, because that's as much a part of it as all of this. And as you become willing to like allow to bring love to that part of yourself, it gives people permission not just to aim big, but to feel crappy when it doesn't go the way they want it to, and then to get nurtured and healed and supported and to deepen from that place instead of trying to convince themselves that they don't feel the way they do, or structure their lives so they never have to feel the way that they're afraid that they might feel. It's a beautiful gift, and it's a really courageous path to walk, to let people see and be with this aspect of yourself. That's the work of leadership. Beautiful work today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, amazing. Amazing, beautiful, sacred. Wow.
Let's do a little bit of a debrief. Anything that showed up for you or that you're present to, you're like, wow, I didn't expect us to go there, or anything you want to share?
Yeah. What I didn't expect was to be able to clearly see the thing I didn't know that I didn't know, and to watch myself bring it about.
Mm.
I've always been relying on other people to do it for me, and I did it for myself.
Yeah.
What I didn't expect was such passionate adoration for my darkness coming out of this.
Mm.
And now immediately in this second, I'm looking back on my life, not just at these things that caused the darkness that created some of it, but how can I passionately fall in love with that and visit it and talk to it and stop trying to avoid it and hide it and keep it.
Mm.
And I know that's going to come out in my storytelling. I didn't expect that. But I didn't expect some of the amazing people that were on here witnessing this and allowing me to be completely transparent, right? Kimono's totally open, because that's the only way that I'm going to grow. And that may be the very thing somebody else needs to hear. So I'm honored.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing all of that. When you shared, I wrote it down. What I don't know, I want to know, which is like totally, we all start from places like that, but it's like, okay, great. So is it sort of like the ballistics of a missile shot over the Pacific Ocean that you want it? Like, it's just that world of what we don't know is infinite. And so I was kind of like, I wonder where specifically we're going to end up. And I initially kind of was thinking, okay, this conversation will probably be to some extent about your resistance to taking the big vision and getting specific about it. But I didn't know what that resistance was about. And as we started to like explore that, what caught me off guard was like, oh, there's emotion showing up. Not that emotion would show up at all, right? Yeah, sure, that's usually going to show up. But just I didn't know where that was going to come from. Or I was like, oh, there's emotion here. And as we explored into that, that's where it really started to come to the surface. Like, oh, this isn't about 10 one-on-one people, or, it could be whatever the big result is. This thing right here at the bottom is going to be there. And as long as Bryan doesn't have a relationship where he can empower this, you have no choice but to sabotage it. Has to keep going that way.
Well said.
Leo says that there's a point you might want to go back and listen. I think I'd asked you, is it consistent, your experience, that when you try to pull this out, that possibility diminishes? And you let out an uproarious laugh. You giggled, you called it. And at that moment, Leo said, that laugh from you, Bryan, was beautiful and sounds like possibility making music.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah. And you might just go back and notice it. Like, part of what I was present to that created that was your willingness to sit with this thing and to like let it be, rather than like, how do we get out of it? And from there, that got created. Nava, it's interesting. Nava says, your birthmark is your gift. It makes you unique. I didn't even know you had a birthmark. So it's hilarious. I was like, you said something about your face, and I was like, oh, I can't see anything. And then Nava mentioned that. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I guess he's got a birthmark. Funny how we're perceived by others. And Nava also says, thanks for the reminder about showing the story, putting that into the space.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome.
Andrew also said it's such an amazing distinction to see the excitement for the coaching relationship, but the sadness in the sense that the needle doesn't feel like it's moving, and he can feel both of those himself. So, this like, there's possibility, but it's not going. And like, how do we hold the tension for both of those? There's a paradox, right? Like, am I excited, but am I sad? And how do I allow it all to exist? Yeah. And anytime we have a paradox like that, that's usually the sign where there's a breakthrough available. The breakthroughs are where we transcend, and somehow, whereas previously both of these were like in opposition to each other, they both become available. Then there's another breakthrough after that, and then so on and so forth.
It just gets better and better.
That's right. Yeah. So tell me. Anyhow, Bryan, where do people find you if they want to know more about you?
BryanTarr.com.
With a Y, BRYANTARR?
Yep, TARR.com. Okay. And or find me on Facebook. Messenger works really well, and let's start a conversation.
Cool.
Yeah, I love deepening relationships with people and finding out who they are and who I am. So I definitely open up to a wonderful conversation with some of these amazing people.
Nice. Are you going to be sharing some of your journey as you explore this darkness, as you look into this?
If you go over to my business page, you will be seeing a lot of this new honesty in how I share about the business. If you go over to my personal page, you're going to see my stories shift. You'll see some of the older stories I had, and you're going to see some of my new stories start to get really real and raw.
Nice.
There's an interesting dichotomy that's going to be presented. You'll see, here's Bryan. Here's, whoa, he really is sharing that darkness. It's going to be beautiful to see, because I'm now opening to sharing that experience.
Nice. So if people are resonating, if you're resonating with Bryan's story of this possibility versus, then that would be a good place to go and follow along.
Journey's about to happen.
Nice. What am I going to plug? I'm going to plug the Creating Clients course. We start in January, but now is the time to register. So if people are like, I really want to know more about this notion of crafting a story, or even like discovering myself, or so much of the work we're doing is in untraining all of the way that the world trains us to sell, which sucks. We don't like doing that. And instead to go deeper into ourselves, to discover the light, the beauty that we are, and then to build up from that foundation and to learn how to connect with human beings, to just build relationship with them. And what you'll find is that you'll discover a delight and a joy in doing that. And that the thing you used to hate selling kind of fades away. It stops even being a thing you think about doing. And it just becomes like, oh, that's just part of the art I'm expressing in the world. I just be in the world, I express my art. And Creating Clients, there's stuff for you to learn, but Creating Clients kind of just becomes another part of who you be in the world. So that's $1,000 US. You can go to, I'm going to put it in the comments here. Bam, adamquiney.com /client creation, all one word, and read about it. It's amazing. There's people in the comments that have been talking about it. If you want to learn more, read the comments, talk to them, check out that page. Andrew is going through it right now. Is very generous, and he says it's been the best investment I've made in my coaching business so far, and I've invested way more. I highly recommend it. Thanks for that, Andrew. The other thing I want to say about that is I've been approached by a few people that want that are like, can you do this with my team? So we're doing a few of these courses for corporate teams that are selling, or not even selling, but want to bring people along with them towards their vision. So they want to enroll people in something. So if any of that is something that might be of interest to you, check it out. Reach out to me for a conversation. And thanks everyone. Thanks Bryan for being here. Thanks for your just tremendous intimacy. There's a great deal of intimacy you bring into the space.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks, Andrew. I'm going to name some people here: Nava, Leo, Chrissy, Lydia. Who else do we have with us today? Anna, Evan. Any other shout outs? Jess. Okay, I've scrolled back far enough. I'm not scrolling further. So thanks everyone that came and hung out with us. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend, and we'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Fantastic.
Okay, and then this is the part, Bryan, it's still live. I have to click the end live feed and they get to see this part of the conversation.